Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Grace Alana here. I am a professional astrologer and today's video is going to be about the Mars signs, but we're going to talk about positive and negative traits of each Mars sign. So I posted a video on my TikTok the other day about how I can always tell when somebody has a weakened Mars, and it got people in their feels real bad. So I wanted to start talking about the Mars signs in general because I don't really see a lot of people talking about the Mars signs. And what I do want to say is that when I said weak, I didn't mean, of course, that I think the person is weak, but planets are comfortable in certain signs and they are uncomfortable in other signs. And I can always tell when somebody has an uncomfortable Mars because these are the people who are passive aggressive. These are the people who don't like confrontation, or these are the people who like to fight. They love confrontation. They're really aggressive. They're really angry and they don't necessarily know how to properly harness their energy or, their emotions overall. So I wanted to give, like I said, a breakdown on positive and negative traits for each Mars sign. So let's get into it. Now, Mars in astrology is the planet that represents action. It represents energy. It represents what motivates you, what drives you, the reasons why you're kind of doing what you're doing. Mars is that instinct. Now, Mars, if comfortable, this can be somebody who's very assertive. This can be somebody who's confident. This can be somebody who can pursue their goals. This can be somebody who is a hard worker. But again, some of those negative things that I already mentioned, if somebody has an uncomfortable Mars, or if somebody, negative traits of their Mars, they could be passive aggressive, they could be impulsive, they could be reckless, they could be somebody who is really angry, does not know how to handle their energy or emotions. So let's get into it. Now, Mars is at home in Aries. Mars is in its domicile. It's in its home sign, so it can operate at its best and most comfortable place. And with Mars in Aries, a positive energy of a Mars in Aries can be somebody who is bold. They're quick to take action. They're quick to make moves. They don't necessarily need to think too much about what they're doing. They can be naturally competitive and fearless, but they do this in a good way, a fun way, a positive way. Yeah, they like a challenge. Yeah, they like a little competition, but they're not mean. They're not nasty about it. This can be somebody who has a lot of high physical energy and drive. They might like to work out. They might like to be cheery or bright, or this could be somebody who just has a lot of energy overall. But if Mars is uncomfortable, this can be somebody who can be impulsive and reckless. This can be somebody who can be prone to anger or aggression. This can be the person who is competitive but is also a sore loser. This can be the person who is not patient and they might start something, but are they going to finish it? And if somebody who has their natal Mars in Aries, me, I feel a lot of both of those energies totally. Like there's good and there's bad. And to be honest, it's not just clear to say, oh, you'll be this or you'll be that. Like a lot of times you can have placements, not placements, you can have periods of times, where you're embracing Mars in a positive way, but then, you can also have times where you're not necessarily using your Mars to your advantage or using it in the best type of way. Now, on the opposite end, while Mars is domiciled in Aries, Mars is comfortable, Mars is at its best, Mars is in its detriment in Taurus, and it operates at its worst. And even when you think about it, Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus is the planet that represents love, beauty, harmony, peace. Mars is the planet that represents conflict, action, tension, anger, aggression. That energy is contradictory. That's why Mars does not like to be in Taurus or Libra. Now, with a Mars and Taurus, this can be somebody who's very persistent and determined. If they want to do something, they're going to figure it the fuck out and they're going to make that shit happen. This is somebody who has excellent stamina and endurance. This is somebody who can work out for a long time. This is somebody who can be very diligent. If they, again, want to do something, even if it takes them a lot of hard work, even if it takes them a lot of time, they're going to be very proactive and hardworking when it comes to that energy. This is somebody who takes steady, reliable steps and moves when it comes to accomplishing things and getting things done, period. But on the opposite end, this can be somebody who is stubborn and resistant to change. If they don't want to do something, if they're not feeling it, they're not going to do it. This can be somebody who could be slow to start something. This can be somebody who, if, they do have to change, they're being stubborn. They're, pussyfooting around with it. They, got their face screwed up, things like that. Like they might be the person who does not necessarily want to adapt or want to move on to something new. And if this person is not motivated, they could be really fucking lazy. Like it brings a very slow type of energy. Mars is in Gemini. So in Gemini, Mars is not comfortable. It's not uncomfortable. Mars is kind of just there. And when Mars is in Gemini, some positive things that can come from this is somebody can be very sharp moving. They can, not sharp moving. They can be sharp-minded and fast-moving. So there can be good coordination between, the way that you think, the way that you act. There's a relationship there. This can be somebody who can be a very good multitasker. They might be able to do different things or handle different responsibilities all at one time. And, they can use their mental agility to help them process that energy. This can be somebody who's very energetic when it comes to communicating, debating, getting their points across. They can make you feel something when they're talking to you. But on the negative end, this can be somebody who could be easily distracted and have a lot of scattered focus. Yeah, you might be doing a bunch of different things, but are you finishing them? Or, what do you really have going on? Are you juggling these things? You might be trying to put a lot of energy into a whole bunch of things, but you might be focusing on this when you really need to be focusing on that. This can be somebody who can be argumentative, a little sarcastic, a little bitchy. And this can be somebody who can lack consistency and follow through. And you really have to make sure that you are giving yourself the space to be committed to something, to be reliable, to build something up and make it a little bit structured. Now, Mars is in its fall in Cancer. So outside of it being in Libra or Taurus, Mars is in its fall in Cancer, which is still one of the worst, most challenging, uncomfortable places for Mars to be. Now, same thing, Mars don't like to be in Cancer because when you think of Cancer, Cancer is ruled by the moon, which is the planet that represents, your feelings, your emotions, tenderness, softness, safety, security, stability. And again, Mars is very contradictory to a lot of that energy. And also, Saturn is not comfortable. Like, neither of the malefics likes to be in Cancer at all. And it makes a lot of sense because that energy is so opposite of the moon, which is nurturing and loving and all soft and tender and shit. But if you have your Mars in Cancer, this can be somebody who can protect. If you love something, if you love somebody, if you really care or put value into something, you're going to go to war for it, period. This is somebody who could be very emotionally intuitive, and they can use their emotional connections to help them make moves. They can have that inner, because the moon represents your intuition and your subconscious mind. And there can really be that deeper level of connection between your intuition and your instinct, because Mars is your instinct. And even, if somebody with the Cancer Mars is really emotionally invested into something, they're going to fucking work hard to get that shit done. But again, this person can be so passive aggressive. They might feel something. They might, think something and they're not necessarily going to express it. They might hold on to it, especially if it's anger, especially if it's tension, especially if it's conflict, because the debilitated Mars does not necessarily like conflict all the time. This could be somebody, but again, could be moody and defensive. So, you might always feel like you're personally attacked. If somebody says something to you, you're defensive, your mood is switching. The way that you even thinking about, the way that you approach things and the things that you do are all really truthfully dependent on your mood and how you're feeling at the moment. And this can be somebody who struggles with direct confrontation, which on one end, this could be the person who somebody wants to talk to them, somebody trying to say something, they're going to run away and hide. But from another perspective, this could be the person who's always trying to fight, somebody who's always starting shit, somebody who's always ready to be aggressive and ready for that conflict. If you have your Mars in Leo, this can be somebody who's very passionate, somebody who's confident, somebody who's assertive, somebody who's direct, bold. Mars does really well in the other fire signs as well too, not just Aries. Because when you think about the nature of Mars, Mars is a hot and dry planet. That is the essence of the fire signs. This can show somebody who has strong leadership capabilities. This is somebody who can take action. Again, this is somebody who can be assertive. This is somebody who can be driven and confident, and they can use that energy to get things done, but to also lead and help other people as well too. This can be somebody who has a lot of, dramatic, creative, fun flair with the way that they move and get things done. But on the opposite end, a Leo Mars could definitely be somebody who is very ego-driven or attention-seeking. This can be somebody who could be very bossy or domineering. They always want to be in control of something. They always want to be the leader. This could be somebody who, is not necessarily receptive to criticism, or if they feel like they're being ignored, they're going to lash out because, oh, look at what I'm doing. I want your attention. I'm beautiful. I'm fun. I'm gorgeous. Look at me, like that. Leo, being ruled by the sun is a very self-directed, a self-assertive sign, and a lot of actions and moves that a person can make if they have their Mars in Leo can be directed and related to their own self. If you have your Mars in Virgo, this could be somebody who's very detailed oriented and very productive. You know, if you have a plan, if you need to get something done, you're going to figure it out and you're going to take action oriented steps to get that shit done. And that leads me to my next point. These people are practical in action and planning. They always have a plan. They know what they're doing, how they're going to do it. And it typically works very well for them. And they have a strong work ethic. They like to get things done. They're very action oriented. If you give them a task, boom, here you go. And they're very service minded. It's not even about just getting them to do something. They actually want to do it. But, you know, a Virgo Mars can be very critical of themselves and others. This is the person who obsesses over every single thing that they do. And, you know, you might be paying a little bit too much attention, or, you know, your moves might be a little bit too planned, that if, you know, you have a plan and you want something to happen and it don't go the way that you want it to, you're going to crash the fuck out. This can be somebody who, again, could be anxious or obsessive when it comes to the things that they're doing. And, you know, this could be the person who, if it's not perfect, you could be paralyzed by your perfectionism. Like, if it's not perfect, again, you're going to freak out. You're going to crash out. You're going to overreact. Like, everything has to be ideal, which everything can't fucking be perfect. Mars in Libra. Again, Mars is detriment in Libra, so it's the worst place that it could possibly be. So, you know, with Mars in Libra, this is somebody who's very diplomatic and strategic in their actions. They're doing things for others. They're doing things for a better cause or for the greater good of something. They can be very good at working with other people and getting things done and handling tasks within the context of a relationship or a partnership or something like that. And, you know, this is somebody who's very motivated by what's fair, what is right. They care about justice. They care about things being equal, and they are motivated to do things to keep the peace. So this is the person who, you know, let's say your friend is getting into some conflict, but they're not necessarily going to speak up. You're the person who might fight somebody else's battles because, you know, you care about them. You care about everybody. But on the opposite end, this can be somebody who's very indecisive or passive. You know, Libra is the scales. Libra is a sign that's all associated with harmony and balance. But this person may not necessarily be able to act because they're too worried about trying to keep the peace, or they don't want to ruffle feathers, or they're just trying to, you know, la 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 la, like everything can't be perfect. This can be somebody who avoids conflict even when it is necessary, because again, they just want to keep the peace. Everything, they want everything to be beautiful. And like Libra, because Libra is a sign that's associated with Libra and Virgo, I would say, for real. These are two signs that are often associated with perfectionism and paying attention to details to things like that. But a lot of that energy can be fake. And, you know, you might, again, be passive aggressive. Somebody could make you mad or make you feel some type of way, but you're not going to say it, but you're going to start acting funny, or you might talk shit about them behind their back. Like, this energy is very, very, very indirect. And even, you know, Libra, again, you know, appearances, illusions, all the things that could be associated with Venus. You know, this could be somebody who could be a little bit manipulative when it comes to their charm or when it comes to their motives or things that they're doing. So you got to kind of watch them. Mars is at home in Scorpio. Outside of Mars ruling Aries, Mars also rules Scorpio. But it's interesting because when I posted the video, a lot of people said that they felt like they had a weakened Mars with the Scorpio Mars. But I feel like the difference between Aries and Scorpio is that Aries is a more direct, assertive energy. Like Aries is more in your face. It's more out there. Whereas Mars and Scorpio is more internalized. And not that that energy is not there, but Mars don't like to be in water signs. Mars is fine in Scorpio. Mars is fine in Pisces. But again, when you think about the essence of water signs, Mars don't like to be there. But in general, you know, when you have your Mars in Scorpio, this is somebody who's very intensely strong with their focus and with their willpower. If a Scorpio Mars is determined about something, they're going to get it the fuck done. This is somebody who's very strategic and emotionally resilient. You know, again, when it comes to what is inside of you, these people can use their motivations to actually get shit done. This is somebody who's very fearless when it comes to crisis or confrontation. And again, if I needed somebody to argue for me, if I needed somebody to fight for me, I'm an Aries Mars. I'm going to call Scorpio Mars to come help me. Like, we going to get that shit done, period. Because that water sign energy, like when I think of Scorpio, I think of the scorpion, literally. Like, yeah, sometimes that energy might be a little bit concealed, but when that scorpion, when they need to bring that stinger out, when they need to poke somebody with that tail, they're gonna do it. But, you know, Mars and Scorpio can be somebody who's very vengeful and manipulative, because again, water signs like to hold on to things. So this could be the person who could hold on to energy. They could hold on to their anger and then they strike. This could be somebody who could be very secretive with their motives. They might not necessarily be telling people what they're doing, or they could be having hidden intentions with the things that they're doing. And even, you know, Scorpio is a sign that's a lot of times associated with obsession and control. So this person could be super obsessive. This person could be super controlling, and you know, you got to find a way to harness that energy. With somebody who has their Mars in Sag, again, Mars is comfortable in fire signs. Mars loves the fire signs. So this person is adventurous. This person is optimistic. They're not afraid to take a risk. They're not afraid to handle a challenge. They're not afraid to be bold and do something different. They have a lot of energy. They're very enthusiastic, but a lot of times this is channeled positively. So this is the person who has a lot of energy, but it's like, yay, this is fun. Let's go do this. Let's vibe out. Let's rock out. And even in general, when you think about Sagittarius, it's a sign that's associated with your ideals, your beliefs, your values, in a sense, what you truly think about, what you truly believe in, what is near and dear to you, in a sense, from the idea of like what you're thinking about. Venus is more so your values of like what you possess and what you like. But this could be somebody who, you have a dream, you have a wish, you believe in something spiritually. All right, let's go for it. Let's get it done. You can be motivated by the things that you truly believe in and care about. And, you know, whether that's a positive mission, whether that's a cause, these are the people who are philanthropists. These are the people who are doing things for other people. Because when you think about Sagittarius and Jupiter, it's associated with like generosity and, you know, being positive and being hopeful and things like that. But again, this person can be impulsive and reckless. And yeah, a Scorpio Mars will be super adventurous, but this is also the person who does anything. This is also the person who takes shit too far. This is also a person who could potentially lack self-control. I have noticed that when Mars and Jupiter link up, it's not pretty. It's not pretty, because these are the people who do too much. These are people who don't have self-control. These are the people who got to kind of learn to tone it down at times. And this is, you know, a Sagittarius Mars and a Pisces Mars. This person can be blunt or tactless. Again, they'll kind of do anything. They'll kind of say anything. And it gets to a point like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? And, you know, this could even be somebody who could struggle with consistency, because there's so much that you might want to do. There's so many things that you believe in. There's so many different ideas that's going on in your head. You kind of want to do it all, and you can't. Mars and Capricorn. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Mars loves to be in Capricorn. So even outside of Mars being in, of course, you know, a planet and its domicile, it's the best. So Mars is at its best when it's in Aries and when it's in Scorpio. But Mars loves Capricorn too. And this can be somebody who's very ambitious and goal-oriented. Again, if they want to get something done, they're going to fucking do it, period. Like a Capricorn, Mars's drive is unmatched. This person, but again, whereas Mars and Aries, the person, you know, wants to pursue their goals, but, you know, they might not have any base to it. There might lack some foundation or some stability or some consistency. With that Capricorn Mars, that energy is very controlled. It's very disciplined. It's very stable. And this is the person who takes their actions and responsibilities very seriously. They're not going to do something a lot of times if it's not rooted in something, if it doesn't make sense, if it's not logical. But a Capricorn Mars can be fucking mean, overly rigid, overly cold. This can be somebody who only cares about their status. This can be somebody who only makes moves if it's going to benefit them, or if it's going to help them get further ahead, or if it's just going to do something of importance to them. And this is the person who works too fucking hard. You know, you don't ever take your, like you work at home, but you don't ever shut your laptop, or, you know, you have an office, but you bring in a briefcase home. There's no balance between your work or your professional life or your responsibilities and what you have going on in your home or personal life. If you have your Mars in Aquarius, this is somebody who's very innovative. This is somebody who's focused on the future. So they can very easily plan and strategize for the things that they're trying to do. This is the visionary. This is somebody who kind of does what they want, but in a way to where it's still kind of controlled and calculated, more so than I would say like a Sagittarius Mars. This is the person who, again, still acts on their principles. They act on their ideals. They do things that make sense, and they're independent and they're unpredictable, but it's in a good way. Like, it's like, oh, this person, you know, you never kind of know what they're going to do next, but it's not in a bad way. It's like, oh, this person is kind of constantly surprising me. Like, oh, they did this, now they're here. Or, you know, Mars, I just love Aquarius energy. I don't know if it's because I have Aquarius stellium, but like, I love Aquarius energy. And all in all, like, this is the person who has a goal. They have a plan. They want to do something. They're going to do it. And they kind of only do what they want. They kind of only do what makes sense for them, not in a way that it's harmful, like in a Capricorn way it could be, but, you know, like, I always say, like, Aquarius, I like to call Aquarius the wild and free sign, the, I don't give a fuck sign, because Aquarius energy, even when you think about Aquarius is the trendsetter, the groundbreaker, the person who is different, the person who is unique. And somebody who has an Aquarius Mars just kind of does their own thing, because Mars is your action. Mars is what you do. But this could negatively show somebody who is detached or emotionally distant. This can show somebody who is rebellious or does a lot of things just for the fuck of it. Yeah, you're impulsive. I ain't mean to say impulsive, but it could be impulsive. But like, yeah, you want to take a risk or you want to go for a challenge. But again, you're all over the place. You're kind of doing too much. And this person can be somebody who has very erratic behavior. So you have to learn to find a balance with the unpredictability. You have to learn to find balance within the context of doing your own thing. And then lastly, if you have your Mars in Pisces, this is somebody who's very creative and imaginative. And you can use your intuition. You can use your creativity. You can use your compassion and empathy in order to drive you, or something that can help you take action or make moves. And you can even be motivated by, spiritual things. Jupiter is the planet of spirituality. And even thinking about Pisces is the most fluid of all the zodiac signs. It is a mutable water sign. And somebody who has Mars in Pisces can be somebody who can adapt very fluidly or easily to different situations. Like, this is the person who you can kind of put in any space and they're going to be able to make it work. They're going to be able to make it fit in. They can still get what they need to accomplish done in any sort of type of space. But this could be somebody who could be very passive or escapist when it comes to stress or responsibilities. And they might tune out or do impulsive or destructive things if they're not properly harnessing that energy. And this can definitely be somebody who lacks direction or lacks clarity and does not necessarily know what they're doing, or they're just doing things just to do it. Or, they're just kind of skating by and it's like, okay, what the fuck am I doing? And Pisces is soft. Pisces is sensitive. Pisces is a sweetie, a big baby. Pisces don't like confrontation. And this could be somebody who, when it's time to fight, is just going to run the fuck away. They're not going to talk to you. They're going to shut down. They're going to go hide in the corner. And there ain't shit that you can do about it. Like, you have to sometimes be a little bit confrontational. Sometimes conflict is necessary. That don't mean that you have to blow shit up. But you might have to be a little bit assertive sometimes. And with Mars and Pisces, that energy is not the easiest. So yeah, what is your Mars sign? Do you resonate with the positives and negatives of your Mars sign? Let me know. And subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. Follow me on YouTube. Not YouTube, we are on YouTube. Follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all of the things. Moon Ruled Mommy. If you are interested in booking a birth chart reading, I can do that for you. moonruledmommy.com to book, but I will also put the link in the description, as well as the link to all of my socials. And subscribe to my Patreon. A lot of my long form content I type up and put on my Patreon. A lot of my there's just a lot of exclusive access and things. Like, even if you pay, you get a mini reading a month. You can ask me one question, or I can pull a couple cards to answer your question for you. And there's a weekly card pool. There's a lot of benefits for the Patreon, regardless if you pay or not. So make sure you tap into that. And thank you so much for watching. Love y'all down. Thank you for supporting me and my channel, and I will see you in the next video.